Hello, everyone. Welcome to QUIZME Quibski. And today we're doing a SysOps edition. So SysOps is one of the associate exams in AWS, and it's not really very popular. There's only few people who take it. Obviously, solutions architect I think is the most popular, followed by developer, and then some people take SysOps. So what is SysOps? So if we look at our AWS website or the certification page, it shows that SysOps is intended for systems administrators. Okay, so this is a title that's fairly common in our existing data centers or local premises. And the task of our SysOps is to basically deploy, manage, and operate in scale in highly available and fault-tolerant systems of AWS. If you guys are on hybrid, this certification and skill set is very important as you will have to constantly monitor and also operate your hybrid architecture. Yeah. So if you have networking background and even background on, let's say, our Linux or uh, OpenStacks and other on-premise VMware, those can be highly useful if you take this. No? So here basically we're transforming our on-prem team to a cloud enabled excellence team. Right? So with all other associate exams, this is multiple choice and multiple answer. You have 130 minutes to complete, and the fee is 150 USD, okay, dollars, which is roughly around 7,500 here in the Philippines in peso. Right. So right now, it's recommended you take the online proctored exam to avoid contact, so you can take this at home. Right? So maybe you're wondering why take SysOps or when to take SysOps. So I would recommend first is if you are new to the cloud, always go with our cloud practitioner first. This gives you your foundation level, the entry level, no? And then afterwards, you really can choose which path you would take. So if you look at our learning paths here, if we go for develop DevOps, okay, so here you can take the developer associate professional, or okay on the first row here. Sorry, I know you can't see my mouse. Or take the SysOps Administrator and then take advanced developing on AWS. So that is an option for you if you do the DevOps path. No? So there might be other paths that you can take here if you are doing SysOps. Let's see. This is database specialty. Okay, so actually, let's look at all learning paths and see where we can use our SysOps more. So you guys are also viewing this with me in real time, or and let's see. Maybe in operations, let's look at this path. It seems like it's more of a SysOps. All right. So here again, we take the technical essentials, so our fundamentals or cloud practitioner, and then take the SysOps administration. So as you can see, there's not really so many paths that involve the SysOps administration. It really encourages you to move to the DevOps engineer professional, no, after your SysOps. And you can see that none in the certifications. Let's look at that here. Yeah. So as you can see, our SysOps, you move to DevOps engineer at a later stage, right? So maybe in the future, they'll also have a SysOps Administrator Professional, but at the moment, it's recommended that after you finish SysOps, you take the DevOps Engineer Professional. Okay. Things that might help you with your SysOps Administrator is also our specialty Advanced Networking. That's also quite useful, and even the specialty for database. And of course, lastly, let's not forget, it's always day one, and security should be top of our mind. And so that's why you also have the security specialty. So I hope that somehow gives you an idea when to take SysOps. And now let's move on to some questions that SysOps will have when you're taking exams. So I'm going to be using Tutorials Dojo here, which our Q&A is always powered by Tutorials Dojo. Excuse me. So I have my first question here that says, I am a typical lead of a SysOps team to your company where you are developing a Node.js application that will be hosted on AWS. The application needs to send messages across various subcomponents, which are hosted in an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances, in which the order of messages should be preserved. Okay, so it's a queue, and basically I have to follow the order. Which of the following options would you provision for these requirements? So first option, Kinesis Stream. Second option, SQS FIFO queue. Third option, standard SQS. And then fourth option is SNS topic. Okay. So again, when doing an exam, look for keywords. And in this case, I can identify some of keywords here is I need to follow the order. Okay. I need to send messages across various subcomponents as well. No? So let's try to take out eliminate some of the options first. So first is let's eliminate the SQS standard, because obviously it needs a order. So I can only choose FIFO for SQS if that was my answer. Kinesis Stream, it's real time. And so I'll have to double check if we can follow actually a order messaging. No? And then lastly is SNS topic, which would support fanning out, but at the same time, delivery is not assured. So it could be difficult to choose this. And so for its preservation and guarantee, I would use SQS FIFO stream. SQS FIFO queue. So let's check it out if that's the correct answer. That is correct. Okay, so explanation here below as follows. For those who want to read, I'll just scroll down and you can pause as you want to. All right, and also the reference. Next question I have. A university has a web-based learning management system hosted on its on-premise data center that they want to migrate to AWS Cloud. Due to the volume of local and overseas students that use their system, they need to deploy up to 60 C3 4x large EC2 instances on their VPC. As the SysOps administrator, what should you do prior to the migration? Right, so again, I'm gonna look for keywords here. Web-based learning might be, but that could be one, but let's see. Next is on-premise data center. And basically the use case here is a migration. And then lastly, we need to deploy 60 C3 4x large. So quite many, no? So what would I do prior to migration? Let's go. First option, use the AWS Trusted Advisor to increase the default service limit of EC2 instance. Second, create a case in the AWS Support Center page and request for a service limit increase. Next, ensure that you have enabled enhanced networking and created 60 elastic IP address before launching the EC2 instance. And next, do nothing. You can directly launch 60 C3 4x large EC2 instances in AWS at the same time. No? So here I can already eliminate some questions immediately. First is basically the first option, trusted advisor does not increase your limit for you. So trusted advisor can check, and if your limit is beyond around 70-80%, they will notify you. It will show up in our trusted advisor so that you are aware that you're hitting the soft limit or service limit. So this is eliminated. Next, enhanced networking is created. So for me, at this moment, networking was not discussed or not even in the information or the problem set. So I will also pause this. So I'm now choosing between create a case support to increase the service limit or do nothing. So basically, this is really a test for me because I have to recall what the soft limit is for EC2 instances. So maybe if you've been using AWS like me, you might have already come across the soft service limits. So for example, maybe in S3, we know it's quite common that up to 100 buckets only are soft limit. Or in EIP, we have 5. Or VPC, we also have 5. Now for EC2, this is a challenge because I need to remember what was the soft limit. Was it 20 or 100? Or even a number in between? No? So I would think that knowing AWS, being very frugal and also careful, soft limits are there for our customer, for the user's protection, right? And given that you're able to deploy 60 immediately, especially if you are new and maybe not yet exposed, 60 seems to be a very large number, especially for a 4x large. So those are quite expensive now, 4x large. So I think you would need to create a service limit first. Okay. So that would be my answer. If you've created a service limit already, by the way, before, you don't need to obviously create a service limit request anymore. But for this question, I would assume you haven't yet. And so let me check if that's the correct answer. That is the correct answer. So let's look at the explanation to see what's the default service limit. No? Okay, so this gives you the steps on what to do. No, it doesn't show how many the service limit is. So let's open this reference. So that's what is great with Tutorials Dojo. It actually gives you the AWS reference. Okay, let's see. For EC2, okay, did I already miss it? EC2, I have it there. Nope. Here. Okay, no, that's not in that URL. We'll have to look for the limit itself, maybe here. Okay, it does not actually say at the moment, no? So here, it really depends. Okay, I'm diving through. Our soft limit, it does not say. So unfortunately, guys, it looks like I cannot find the limits right now, no? but it might have to do with this calculation here. And okay, one more time. Let's see if there is a number that I can give you. So here, I'm assuming the question was for x large. So maybe the soft limit is somewhere there, but I think that that's not actually it. Okay, so there's no direct answer at the moment, right? So let's go on. Let's go back. Next question. A government organization has implemented a file gateway to keep copies of home drives of their employees in a separate S3 bucket. As the SysOps administrator, you notice that most files are rarely accessed after 60 days, but it is required that the file should be available immediately in the event of surprise audit. In this scenario, what can you do to reduce the storage cost while continuing to provide access to the files of the employees? So keywords here, it's 60 days, rarely accessed, but should be immediately available if there is a surprise audit. No? So our option is enable versioning on S3 bucket, set up a lifecycle policy that moves the employee files or older than 60 days to infrequent access storage class, create a lifecycle policy to move files or older than 60 days to Glacier Deep Archive storage class, and last option is set up an S3 bucket policy to limit user access to only newer files that are created in less than 60 days. Okay. So again, in the process of elimination, we can eliminate versioning already, the first option, because versioning does not have to do anything with storage class. And so, in fact, enabling versioning could, in fact, give you more storage cost because you keep a copy of every version modified. The other things that I would eliminate is basically the policy to limit users to only newer files. Okay, again, limiting the access does not have anything to do with storage option, you know. And then so it's between the second and third option at the moment. Now, if you look at it, you could argue that a life cycle policy for older than 30 days to deep archive storage class is potential, and then you could do a what you call it expedited retrieval, no? But that means you would need to do that. It adds a layer of complexity, and also you really use deep archive storage class for I guess long-term archive, no? So infrequent access is so it's actually now it's between infrequent access by second choice or the third one, which is the archive. So here we have to understand which best to use. No? Are we archiving this already or not? So at the moment, I'm using it's a surprise audit. Infrequent access does not sacrifice the retrieval time, especially if we are using it just once or twice. No? So let me pick the infrequent access at the moment. So let's check it out. That is correct. Yan. So in practice, I might just use the storage class, which is called the intelligent tiering, where it will give me, it will use machine learning to pick for me the appropriate storage class. But in this case, here you go. And for those who want to read, okay, Tutorials Dojo gives you a very good explanation with diagrams. And like I said, normally I would just use intelligent tiering. All right. So next question. A digital advertising company is planning to migrate its web-based analytics application from its on-premise data center to AWS. You design the architecture to use an application load balancer and an auto-scaling group of on-demand EC2 instances which are deployed on a private subnet. The instances will be fetching data analytics from various API services over the internet every 5 minutes. For security reasons, the EC2 instances should not allow any connections initiated from the internet. Which of the following options is the most scalable and highly available solutions that should be implemented? So again, keywords here. Basically, we want it on private subnet. Okay, that's very good already. The practice of putting in private versus public. And connections must be initiated by the EC2 instances and not from outside. No? So the difference between public and private, you have to understand that with public, that means you would need an internet gateway. For private, there is no internet gateway route directly to the private subnet. So because there is no internet gateway route, it now asks us, what do we need? So for our instances to have that internet connection. So first option is a NAT gateway in the private subnet. The second option is a NAT gateway in the public subnet. The third option is a NAT instance in the private subnet. And the fourth option is a NAT instance in the public subnet. So as you can see, basically there are two kinds of permutations here. First is, where will we place our solution? Will we place our solution in a private subnet or in the public subnet, whether it be gateway or instance? So for us, we have to put it in the public subnet because our instances are in the private subnet. If you put the solution inside the private, and by definition, if you are in private, you cannot communicate already directly to the internet gateway. So we need somebody in between or proxying for us in the public subnet so that it can jump off that solution. So our first answer, it has to be in the public subnet. No? Because anyway, instances in the same VPC by default can already talk to each other. Okay, especially in your so it doesn't mean that you're in a private subnet you cannot talk to the public subnet. Okay? The only difference is, again, the internet gateway connection. So next is between a NAT gateway and a NAT instance. Okay? So there are use cases for this. When to use a NAT instance, when to use a NAT gateway. Okay? So NAT instance, you basically have one EC2 instance or several EC2 instances, depending how you deploy it. But by default, NAT instance, it's not instances. Now, NAT instance is just one. The other one is obviously a NAT gateway. It's a managed gateway, like our internet gateway, but instead it uses a NAT service. So the question being, given keyword most scalable and highly available, we cannot already use our NAT instance because it's just one. Okay, especially if it resides in one availability zone only. So we have to use a NAT gateway, a managed service in the public subnet. Okay, so let's check it out. All right. Okay, so far so good. This is our explanation there. Okay, no diagram, unfortunately, but we do have a comparison between the NAT reference and further information about NAT gateway. So for our last question, I'm an IT lead of a mobile game application startup, which they have no storage capacity that would sufficiently cater to the expected 500,000 users each month. You decide to use AWS. Wow, 500 users each month. No? This is like my current company right now, Education, which actually has more than 500,000 users each month. Close to a million. Actually, let me double check. It's probably more than a million unique visitors every month already. They want to store the objects and metadata separately. What are the possible options to ensure that the data is secure, costs are optimized, and the storage capacity is both scalable and durable? Ooh. So first option, EFS for object and meta data storage, and DynamoDB for the database. Second option, S3 RRS for object and metadata storage, and use RDS for the database. Third option, use S3 for the object and metadata storage, and DynamoDB for the database. Fourth option is EBS object and metadata storage, and DynamoDB for database. So to answer this, you have several object or data or storage locations or storage types of service, and also different database service. So looking at the keywords, so it has to be both scalable and durable. Okay, so scalable and durable, so that will already eliminate for us at least two options. First is the RRS. So RRS is the reduced redundancy storage object classification. So by its wording, reduce redundancy. So that's obviously less durable already. So that eliminates us that already. The other option is EBS for object and metadata storage. Now, is EBS scalable and durable? Yes, perhaps. But I would say with EBS, unless you're only using one server, right? You wouldn't really attach your EBS with multiple servers. Thus, the access point to EBS could be potentially not scalable. Okay. Maybe its storage capacity is, but I wouldn't say it's the best option, especially if you're reaching 500,000 users each month. I think that point you would have multiple infrastructure, either EC2 on auto-scaling or Lambda. And so EBS doesn't sound to me as the correct solution. So I'm left between EFS for object and metadata storage, and DynamoDB for the database. Or S3 for object and metadata storage, and DynamoDB for the database. So both options give me DynamoDB. And basically, why am I choosing DynamoDB versus the RDS? Obviously, aside from this option being already eliminated, the RDS for this case might not be the best solution, being highly scalable and durable for the data, and a more scalable solution, especially for no schema database information like these, is obviously a NoSQL database, so DynamoDB would be the option. Now, for the object and metadata storage, it's between EFS and S3. Now, both answers, depending on our application, could be useful. But if you look at the question carefully, cost is a factor. Okay, and costs should be optimized. Now, in this case, I would say S3 really was designed for object and metadata storage. And it also gives you the best cost-efficient storage possibility. As we could see in the earlier questions, there was even a lifecycle policy and different storage classes. So for me, this would be the best option. So let's check it out. Okay, there you go. That is correct. And we have a nice diagram showing a design using S3 and DynamoDB and using Lambda. Okay. It's a new news, but actually Lambda already supports EFS as well. So for those that need maybe a higher throughput and cannot use S3, or maybe EFS would be a better solution, but perhaps maybe during the exam creation, EFS was still not supported. But again, even if it was supported, because the question says cost optimized as its factor, then S3 is still the answer. Okay. So that gives you the 5 questions for tonight. I'll just click next. I won't answer this anymore, but just in case you are challenged and you feel what the answer is, go ahead, leave in the comments what your answer are, and I can get back to you if you are correct or right. Okay. So check that out, read it, pause this video, read it, try to answer it. So if you've noticed, the questions are fairly challenging, but I would say it's not really as new knowledge if you are already a solutions architect. Okay? So you'll notice that a lot of this are infrastructure design, but emphasis on the operation. So if you're an SAA, you're creating a new design, obviously, but you would also need to know how to operate it, right? So that's why a transition from SAA to SysOps is not as difficult as you would think. No? And so my tips for you guys here, if you're gonna take the SysOps track, is to perhaps consider again looking at the SAA course, or look at multi-accounts, multi-regions, deployments as an operation of a SysOps. Right? So that's it for tonight. Thank you again, everybody. And I would like to invite everyone who would like to guest here or in our future meetups to go to the link above. go.awsusergroup.ph/speaker. So again, go.awsug.ph/speaker. Right? Okay, so thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. We're just doing this out of hobby, no? So enjoy and take care and good night. Bye everyone.